Welcome, everyone. How's the audio? Good, okay. Let's start with a few announcements. I think first the mic can go to Dawn. Dawn, can you use your, good.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm a Saturday manager along with Greg and Mike. And the volunteering has been so amazing before and after on Saturdays. Thank you very much. It's been extremely helpful. And we're going to start doing things just a little differently. The priority is going to be more towards getting things in the right bins versus needing to get it upstairs quite as quick. So if you need to leave before a bin goes up, don't worry about it. Go. And like the welcome tote is going to be one of the last things we put up. It'd be nice to leave the donation boxes out till the very end so people leisurely can do that if they want. And sorry, the hot water's broken. We'll get that soon. And next week we're going to do some cleaning, so next week we won't even you don't have to worry about taking the bins up. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. And our whole Saturday volunteer team really does amazing keeping this together. It's quite an operation, so sadhu. A few other points. I think, Kate.
Good morning, everyone. It's lovely to see you. So I'd like to ask if anyone here has a regular mindfulness of death practice. If you do, Suze, a couple of others, great. So in one of the commentaries, I believe it says that there are two practices that you can never do too much of. One is metta, and the other is mindfulness of death, Maranasati practice. And contrary to what you might think, this is actually a really beautiful practice in my experience, because it really puts you in touch with living life more fully, as well as perhaps accepting our own inevitable mortality a little bit more easily. And if you're interested, we will be launching a new book group in January, on January 12th, on Frank Ostaseski's book, The 5 Invitations, Discovering What Death Can Teach Us About Living Life Fully. In January, on January 12th, on Frank Ostaseski's book, The 5 Invitations.
I think we may have an echo, AV, although that was fascinating. How long it took us all to figure out what was happening.
Well, that was interesting. So if you're not familiar with this book, it's a really easy to read book full of really tender, sweet stories written by Frank Ostaseski, who was co-founder of the Zen Hospice in San Francisco. And we're going to be reading one of the 5 invitations each month, and then meeting online to talk about it twice a month. And the group will meet on Zoom on the 2nd and 4th Monday of each month, starting on January 12th. Meeting time is 6:30 to 8. And there are I'm joined by 2 lovely co-facilitators, Sarah Conover and Nicole Jarosinski. So the 3 of us are going to be co-facilitating this group. If at each meeting we're going to do some meditation, we're going to do some individual writing in response to a prompt, and then share in small groups and big group. And we're planning to do a half-day or whole-day retreat in June at the end of the book, possibly in person, possibly including a visit to a cemetery, which I hope will work out. So if you'd like to sign up, please do so on the website, on the Clear Mountain website, through, if you go to events and galleries, then visitors and practitioners, scroll way down to the bottom and then hit the button that says sign up for a study group. And there's also a QR code on the back table there. Thanks, Sarah. And if anyone has any questions, please talk to me or Sarah or Nicole if she's here afterwards. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Kate. It is a really beautiful book, and if that set of instructions about how to get to the right button is a little too much, talk to Kate or my mom, or please post on WhatsApp and Discord the link again these coming days and check there too. It's really worth looking into. But otherwise, visitors, practitioners, scroll to the bottom, sign up for a study group. So another thing, what we're going to begin doing as well is having every first Saturday of the month, we're hoping to follow the gathering with what we're going to call an Upasaka discussion group. And it's just a chance for people to get together and talk a bit about living a Buddhist life, however that manifests for you. We'll often have themes such as, how people are working with the precepts or meditation. Today is our second Upasaka discussion group, and our theme will be pilgrimage. And so we'll have Alf, raise thy hands, Alf, and Mike Jola visiting from Portland, who just went on pilgrimage and took great photos of it. And they'll be meeting at 11:15 after things wrap up. They'll be over here near the book table. And if you're interested, feel free to get some food and then meet them. And then if you go up to the second story classroom, do we know the room number, Tyler? No, but I can come to the flag. Good. Follow the flagging, Tyler, because I also don't remember the room number. But it's just the second story room, and people will just be up there for about an hour, however long you want, and just a chance to talk about pilgrimage, see some good pictures, and we'll be doing that pretty much the first Saturday of every month is some other interesting theme. Additionally, to note that who is still unaware that we've put in an offer on land? Okay, well, that would be a little, okay, so we put in an offer on land, and the first and third Saturday of every month until our due diligence period ends, which is March 22nd, we're hoping to lead a field trip out there. Today is our first group field trip. I told the seller to expect 20 people. I think we may have more. Basically what we'll try to do is at 12, we're going to aim to gather and depart around 12:15. I know we said 12:30, but we think a little earlier will be fine, at least that being the aim. So if cleanup could start around 11:50, something like that, and just trying to get everything kind of wrapped up. If the Saturday managers have to stay on a little longer and finish up and then just meet us there 5 or 10 minutes later, that's okay. But for those who are interested in coming visiting the land, it's about a 40-minute drive out by North Bend. Once you gather over there, we'll give out the address. We would ask you not to share that address with people who aren't going on the field trips, and please do not visit that land except during these authorized field trips. It will endanger the deal. So please just hold this carefully, but it'll be really fun, and the rain looked like it might actually let up by the time we go out there. This particular day, we might also have some filming happening, and just to make a little video of it, and sort of asking if people are willing to give, whoever wants, just a small testimony of why they personally are looking forward to the monastery. So just, you can kind of proliferate about that if you want, no pressure. So, begin cleanup at 11:50. Those who want to go around 12:15, and if you go to the Upasaka group slideshow, we'll have you down here around 12:15 or so, if Alf and Mike can help that happen. We'll also have a chance for some discussion about the land during the Q&A session today. And I think the one final thing to note is we are looking for, so Tyler has volunteered to be the Upasaka discussion steward, which means he'll be facilitating these monthly discussions. But we do need a second because Tyler will be leaving at some point. So if someone's interested in helping, just, it's a very light load, just holding the space for these once a month discussion groups, then if you could talk to Tyler, that would be great. Tyler, can you raise your hand? And actually, could we get a mic to Tyler, Ryan? Tyler, I know this is putting you on the spot just a little bit, but one of the reasons Tyler's leaving is he might go spend time at Three Jewels near Abhayagiri as a steward. And he visited there last month and had kind of a pretty wonderful vision or dream. Tyler, would you, I know it's putting on the spot a little bit, but it's pretty inspiring. Would you mind just sharing the dream a little bit?
Yeah, this is very fun and sort of unusual. So I had the opportunity to go stay at Three Jewels, which is already kind of special because they typically don't allow overnight guests. But because I am going to become the steward, they sort of wanted me to come stay for a week and kind of get into the rhythm and the routine and sort of see what a week there looks like. And so I settled in, and the room that I was staying in is actually the room where all of the visiting senior ajahns stay. And so it was already sort of a kind of, ooh, this is a special place. And so I settled in, had a great first day, and that night I had a very strange dream where I was laying in the bed, asleep, and in the dream, at the foot of the bed, where my head was in the room, was Longpor Liam sitting on a seat, and there were some other sort of, faceless dream monks nearby, and I was sitting on the floor, and Longpor Liam turns to me and looks at me, and I have this really gross old pair of shoes that I should have gotten rid of a long time ago, that I just haven't, because they're comfy and I like them in the mud, and yeah. Anyway, so I have these shoes, and they were, for some horrible reason, they were in this room on the floor, which don't do that. But so Longpor Liam points at me, points at the shoes, and he's like, it's time to get rid of these. And I was like, But anyway, so in that moment, through the door comes Anagarika, Virginia, from Canmore, and she's holding a big pair of like very fancy, like all white laces, white sneakers, these like basketball shoes, and comes over to me and hands them to me. And Longpor Liam sort of gives this like approving nod and is like, that's much better. And then I woke up and that's it.
Wow, that is fascinating. So Anagarika, Virginia is a Anagarika up at Canmore Buddhist Theravada community. And Tyler. Yes. My parents found out your shoe size, and may those shoes serve you well at Abhayagiri. Yes, you're set to go. So, 3 big sadhus for Tyler's Path in Anagarika, Virginia. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I usually don't put people on the spot that much, but this was too good of a thing to do, so yeah.
So for people who don't know, this is Anagarika, Virginia. Anagarika means basically one who's in training to become a bhikkhuni. And so she's living up at Canmore Theravada Buddhist community, and it's great when she can come down. She has family in the area, so she'll be with us for the rest of the day. And you can, after our morning, you can come and ask her more questions. Her favorite disciple of the Buddha is Mahapajapati Gautami, the Buddha's stepmother, and the first bhikkhuni, the first nun. So thank you so much for coming. Sadhu.
So glad to be here, and so glad to be part of Tyler's process.
I don't know if that's ever happened before in the history of Buddhism, shoe gifting. Well, let's meditate together. Actually, this being the first Saturday of the year, usually we do the precepts and refuges, and especially since it's the first Saturday of the year, before going into meditation, we'll do that. So this is an opportunity for people who would like to request the 3 refuges. That's the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and the 5 precepts, the basis for Buddhist morality. And Sarah will do the invitation.
Do we have? Do we have everybody bow for this? Or just, okay. Oh, page 126, but I think does everyone do the together? Okay, great. Yeah, page 126 for a group from a monk. And we start with bowing 3 times. Bow. Bow. And bow. Mayam bhante tisaranena saha pancha silani yachama dutiyampi mayam bhante tisararena saha pancha silani yachama tatiyampi mayam bhante tisaranena saha pancha silani yachama.
Okay, and you can repeat after me. I'll say it 3 times, then you can say it 3 times. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Buddhang saranang gacchami.
Buddham saranam gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dhamman saranam gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Sangham.
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tisarana kamanang nititang.
Pangatipata veramani sikaparang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from taking the life of any living creature.
Take the precept to refrain from taking the life.
Adinadana veramani sikaparang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from taking that which is not given.
Take the precept to refrain from taking that which is not given.
Kame sumichachara veramani sikaparang samadhiyami.
Masavada Ramami Sakapadam Samadhiyam.
I undertake the precept to refrain from sexual misconduct.
I undertake the precept to refrain from sexual misconduct.
Musavada veramani sikaparang samadhiyami.
Sakapadam Samadhiyam.
I undertake the precept to refrain from lying.
I undertake the precept to refrain from lying.
Surameraya majjhapamadatana. Veramani sikaparang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from consuming intoxicating drink and drugs which lead to carelessness. And then just I say this. Imani pancha sikaparani silena sugating yanti silena boga sampara silena nibuting yanti tasama silang visodaye. Virtue. These are the 5 precepts. Virtue is the source of happiness. Virtue is the source of true wealth. Virtue is the source of peacefulness. Therefore, let virtue be purified. And you say sadhu 3 times. The Buddha called those great gifts and streams of goodness, and that's a good way to start the year. And I think there may be an unmuted Zoom participant or a mic that's left on. Mom, is it turned off? Okay.
Okay, we can meditate for real this time. Okay. So Ajahn Chah said that training the mind is really just about 2 activities. That's knowing and letting go. And one way we can practice this is through a body scan. So once we've actually set up our bodily posture in a way which is upright and relaxed, now we can bring attention to the mind. And you can bring attention to the top of the head. And the first step is just to know. Just whatever physical sensation you're experiencing. No wrong answers. It can be tingling or heat. Or you might bring your awareness up there and you don't feel anything. That's okay too. But once you know this area of your body, see if you can now let go. Let go of any stress that you may be holding in the scalp area of the body, the top of the head. And then allow awareness to drop down to the forehead and to the eyes. And just know whatever sensation you're feeling there. It can be a feeling of flux, some muscular twitching, heat, movement. And just knowing that. And then not even trying to physically relax, but just think, letting go. And just allow that word, that seed thought, to really let go of any tension you might be holding in the forehead or around the eyes. Bringing awareness down to the rest of the face and the back of the head. And first step, knowing. This is the truth of this body, this face right now. No judgments that it shouldn't feel like this or it should feel some other way, but just knowing. And then the second step is letting go. Any tension or stress in the physical body and in the mental body that you might be holding around this perception of face. Just nobody's watching. Just letting go. And bringing awareness down to the neck, all around. Front, sides, and back. You can feel the surface and going deeper. And just knowing. Knowing the pulse of the carotid artery, the touch of clothing, whatever you're feeling. Just paying attention to this possibly neglected part of the body. Knowing and letting go. And bringing awareness to both shoulders. Feeling the touch of your clothing, the heat of your skin. Knowing and letting go. And down through both arms at the same time, all the way from the upper arms, the forearms, and both hands, all at once. Knowing whatever's here. And letting go. Letting go of tension, letting go of expectation. Any idea of what you think the arms and the hands should feel like, and being open to whatever's actually appearing right now. Especially in the hands, you might feel that they feel less like gloves and more like clouds. Just a whirring of energy. Bringing awareness to the torso, front and back, and the belly, front and back, and the surface, and deeper, whatever you are experiencing right now, knowing that. Whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, or just a feeling of heat or skin or rumbling or beating or breathing. And letting go. Physical letting go of stress, and mental letting go of any tension and concern that we might have for the chest and belly, and any perceptions or thoughts which might be tied up and associated in this part of the body. And then dropping awareness into the legs, the whole legs, right and left. The thighs, the calves, knees, and feet. And knowing. And not just knowing from thought, not just thinking about the legs or visualizing the legs, but see if you can feel the legs from the legs. Knowing and letting go. And for the next couple minutes, you can either go back and rescan from the top of the head down to the soles of the feet, or just see if you can go whole body. Know all the sensations in the body, from the top of the head down to the soles of the feet, down to the surface that's touching the ground. Knowing and letting go. And in the last couple minutes of a sit, especially a group sit, it's good to practice loving kindness. So any kind of ease or lack of solidity that you've been able to touch into, lack of boundedness. See if you can just breathe in thinking, may I be well, and then breathe out, may all beings be well. And just feel through this cloud body. There's no need for the mind to be limited. Just may I be well, and may all beings be well. Deep forgiveness, first for ourselves and for others. In all directions, above, below, around, and everywhere. May I be well, and may all beings be well.
If people would like to join in requesting a Dhamma talk, turn to page 124. And if you would like to, we can start with bowing 3 times. Bow. 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 Page 124. Brahmachaloka dipadi sahampati katanjaliana diwaramayachata santida satarada parajaka jataka Dese tu Dhamman anukampima pajam.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang Dhammang Sanghang Namasami. It's very nice to be here with everybody this morning. And the first Saturday of the year, you chose to come to a Buddhist meditation thing. Way to go. That's great. And we do really, there's a big spectrum of people who come to our gatherings. There are people who've been Buddhists their whole lives. There are people who don't consider themselves Buddhist at all, but are just curious. There are people who meditate for hours every single day, and there are people who struggle to even sit for 5 minutes and to keep the mind still. So that sit that we had, it's a little bit shorter than we usually do. It was about 10 or 12 minutes. And if you're new to meditation, that might be a good place to start, just to see if you can start up a daily practice of 10 or 12 minutes. It was about, and then you can 10 build up from there if you'd like. And if you're new to... That's funny. Yeah, sitting isn't easy for everybody. If you sat through that and you thought it was agonizing, it was just way too long, then keep practicing, because eventually you'll feel like it was too short. And if you felt like it was too short, then you can join us on Zoom. We sit for 4 hours every day. We've got 4 hours of Zoom meditation every weekday. And starting next week on Thursday, we're going to crank it up. 7 hours of Zoom meditation every day. I'm going on a meditation retreat after that, so Juanita's going to host it for 7 hours a day. And then over the course of the next 3 months, because we're going on winter retreat, we're going to keep cranking it up, eventually, hopefully, to 10 hours a day. And if you hear that and you're like, that's insane, that's impossible, then join, and you'll get to see Juanita's smiling face, and you'll get to see me nodding in and out. But yeah, occasions for meditation. So today, we thought we'd talk about a theme which is a really good theme for a new year, and it is the 10 parami, which are up on this board. So who here has heard of the 10 parami, or paramita, spiritual perfections? Okay, quite a number of people, which is great. So Ajahn Nisabo and I are going to split the time and try to talk a little bit about each one of these. It's a great Buddhist framework, and we wrote it up on the board so that you can try to memorize this. So people about, I think it was 15 years ago, people could remember things, and before that as well. So we wrote it up on the board, so you can just be trying to memorize this list for the whole time we're talking and afterwards. It's a great list. It's a way to structure your life. You can pay attention to one every month, and then for November and December, you can just pick your favorite one and focus more on that. And for New Year's, we gave away these hearts. And for the first 5 people who come up to us after the gathering, we'll give you a heart with one of the paramis, the spiritual perfections on it. And you can take that as your year's theme. We'll give it to you randomly, so you won't know. But it'll be fun. You can focus on it for the year. So the paramis, spiritual perfections, we have them in every school of Buddhism. So the northern school of Buddhism in China, Tibet, Japan, Korea is called the Mahayana. And that's called the greater vehicle. And sometimes they call us the Hinayana, the lesser vehicle, the tiny vehicle. But you know what? They've only got 6 perfections, and we got 10. So feel good about that, Theravada people. And it really is a cool checklist for your days. It's a cool checklist for your year. It's a cool checklist for a life, because when you come to Buddhism, or really you look at these and they're not inherently Buddhist. It's really any kind of mature life. You can think of these as mature emotions or mature priorities in life. That's how Ajahn Thanisaro translates the parami, as priorities in life. So you can ask yourself, how are you practicing these 10? And the 10 are generosity, morality, renunciation or simplicity. You've got wisdom, you've got energy, you've got patience, truthfulness, adhitthana, which is determination or resolution, loving kindness, and equanimity. And one interesting way to look at these is the first 5 are what to do with your life, what to do with your day. And the last 5 are how to do those things. So what is generosity? So you try to give patiently, try to give honestly, truthfully, try to give resolutely with loving kindness and with equanimity. Similarly, the way that you observe your sense of morality, your wisdom, and your simplicity, you're simplifying. And you can ask yourself, look through the list, and you can pick one a day, if you'd like, and just, okay, today I'm going to focus on this virtue. So the first is generosity. So many teachings in Buddhism, and really, of course, in every other spiritual tradition, in non-spiritual traditions, will emphasize generosity, the value of that, because it has the same flavor as liberation. The Buddha said that all of his teachings have the same flavor, just as the whole ocean, every sea in The world has the same flavor of salt, so too all of the Buddha's teachings have the same flavor. That is the flavor of liberation. And so it is with generosity. So the word chaga is a synonym for nibbana. It can mean relinquishment, but it's also a word just for generosity, for giving. The Buddha said one way you can train yourself is with a specific phrase. So you can think, for the rest of my life, I will abide devoid of the stain of miserliness, freely generous, open-handed, delighting in relinquishment, devoted to charity, delighting in giving and sharing. And if you didn't memorize that right now, go back and listen again, because that's a really cool thing to say yourself, to prime yourself, or whatever way you can prime yourself to give, to think, this is something I value. When I'm at my most clear thinking, this is something that I value, and remembering that every morning. So too with virtue. Having it very clear, we recited the 5 precepts. That's the basis of a Buddhist morality. Undertaking the precept to refrain from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, from lying, from taking intoxicants. You give the gift of fearlessness. It's a gift. It's a great gift. The Buddha said, when you practice these 5, you are giving the gift of fearlessness to innumerable beings. You're giving the gift of non-aversion, to freedom from aversion, to numerous living beings. You're giving the gift of non-affliction to numerous living beings. And giving that gift, you yourself have a share of safety, of non-fear. You don't have to fear other people when you yourself are not harming beings. Wisdom, paying attention to the Four Noble Truths, that is how you cause yourself suffering, paying attention to the psychodynamics of when you clench, when you tighten around things, you cause yourself to suffering, you cause yourself to suffer. But when you can know and let go, then that's the path to the end of suffering. That's the heart of wisdom. Simplicity, this renunciation, this is basically taking the precepts and taking it up a notch. This knowing and letting go. You know contentment and you let go of that which is beyond what you need. With generosity, you know what you have and you let go of what you don't need. With precepts, you know safety and you let go of feelings of needing to feed off of other people. So that's the heart of Buddhism, knowing and letting go. And it's instantiated, it's lived through these 10 parami. Effort is required. But part of the cool thing about Buddhist effort is that you get better and better at it. It's like any other skill. The better you get at it, the more refined your touch needs to be. It's like when you're first learning how to play saxophone, you're first learning how to play tennis. Your movements are gross and they're not subtle, but you learn over time. You practice generosity every day. You practice your precepts. You practice simplicity every day, and touch, it gets lighter and lighter. It becomes easier and easier. The letting go is more and more refined, more and more subtle. So practicing that, practicing knowing and letting go with each of these parami. And I'll pass it off to Ajahn Nisabo for the next 5.
The paramita of giving is just one worth kind of stopping on for a second. There's so many opportunities for this. Ajahn Kobe and I were walking down the food table today and each found each other in front of a plate of eggs and then realized we could just give each other an egg instead of taking one egg. And that was our giving for today. There'll be more, but it's that simple. I ate my egg. Yes, it was good. The final 5 begin with kanti, which is patient endurance. But this is a problematic translation because it implies just gritting one's teeth and kind of powering through difficulty. Where Longpo Sumedho translates kanti as peaceful coexistence with the unwished for. and forbearance. And Longpo Amaro says it's impossible to wait for something to be over and to be practicing Khanti at the same time. I don't know, I think there's a continuum there, but in its most pure form, I think Khanti really can be a space of timelessness. And it's worth noting that in Pali, the agent noun kantar, which is the agent noun of Khanti, patience, means an elephant. It's the word for an elephant. And this idea of the Buddha really singled out patience as key. He said, Khanti paramang tapo titika, patient endurance is a supreme flame which burns out defilement. And as we practice the path, we come across difficulties and trials and sufferings which are larger than our narrative has room for sometimes. You know, maybe we have the difficult boss, and in our better moments, we're able to say, okay, this is part of my practice. But then sometimes it's just really hard. It's really hard. The family member at Christmas, the politics, which are continually kind of digging their claws into your heart. And to know that if what you manage to do in those moments is not react from a place of defilement and craving, and hold still, and wait as you move through the Four Noble Truths cascade. So seeing suffering, seeing dukkha, comprehending it, instead of reacting from it, letting go of craving instead of acting from craving, and then feeling how on the other side of the ego screaming for affirmation or to be heard, or the anger demanding to be expressed, there's a quiet and a peace and a relinquishment there. And I've talked about that before, as for me that's part of the meaning of Buddhist grace, is this movement through the Four Noble Truths, where if you hold still enough through that dark valley, you come to a lightness, a path, and a sense that problems don't solve themselves, they dissolve often. And this is the power of Khanti, is often people will have a difficult situation, work, sickness, job, and sort of joke about it afterwards and say, well, at least it gave me a chance to practice patience. And it's said as if this is a consolation prize. But really that ability to restrain action, speech, and mind in the face of the defilements which have driven us forward for years and decades and maybe even lifetimes is true nobility. And this is Khanti. This is why it's the supreme quality, is often when things are good, when the mind is bright, when you're resting in the third and fourth noble truth of peace and the path, you can look clearly and navigate a path forward. But when you rest in the first and second noble truth, when things are difficult and painful and fraught, to know that often your duty is to just keep your head down, make it one step in front of the other, and hold still. Don't create any new karma from that place. And recollect that in this moment, all the conditions I'm putting in are good. This is all past karma. It would likely come up in one way or another, but the conditions right now that I'm feeding into the heart are good, even though this is painful. The conditions are good. Khanti. And I've quoted this before at the New Year's as well, but I think it's worth saying again, is a quote by T.S. Eliot: wait without hope, because hope would be hope for the wrong thing. Wait without love, because love would be love of the wrong thing. There is yet faith, but the faith and the hope and the love are all in the waiting. The faith and the hope and the love are all in the waiting. And just to take a lot of heart in that, and to know that sometimes it's not always enough just to say, okay, I'm going to be patient with this. sometimes you have to lean into the wind a bit and find gratitude as your way of holding steady through those difficulties. Can you find gratitude for the fact that those difficult situations are where we truly get a chance to expand the breadth of our heart and the depth of our kindness and patience? And it reminds me, there's a story of Chogyam Trungpa, a problematic figure in some ways, traveling through Tibet and coming to a monastery where a Tibetan mastiff, which were these big guard dogs, broke its chain and ran at the whole entourage of lamas. And everyone ran this way and that, except Chogyam Trungpa ran straight at the dog, and the dog got terrified and started running away from him. And often with the difficult situations, it's not enough to say, okay, I'll deal with it, I'll practice. You really have to orient the heart to lean into the wind a little bit, to keep your center and say, okay, this is my practice right now, and it's a gift. And this is how patience can merge into gratitude, into grace. And someone in my life once noted that when someone has been with suffering in a beautiful way, has truly oriented with the Four Noble Truths, you see it in their face. There's a beauty that happens, a humility. The second two Noble Truths, peace and the path, are spiral staircase up towards transcendence. And the first two, acknowledging, comprehending dukkha and letting go of its craving, are spiral staircase down towards humility, a love of reality. And so for some of these situations, can you just recollect, I'm not acting out anymore. This is old karma burning through. I'm not putting in any more conditions, and I'm only putting in wholesome conditions. And what I can expect of myself as a human, as a practitioner, is not to act from this doubt, from this anger, and so on. And this is why Kanti isn't a consolation prize. There's a linguist who learned the word for those small holes that animals make in hedges. And as soon as he learned the word, which I've promptly forgotten despite having prepared for this, I think a year ago, I think I looked it up, he started seeing the holes everywhere. And this is the beauty of the paramitas, is that they weren't actually articulated as a list by the Buddha, but the fact that they've come up in every Buddhist culture, for me, indicates that we need some language for these other qualities of heart which we're cultivating. And to know that, if what this year is you bearing with very difficult circumstances and not acting out, you're building parami. That's the Thai word, building paramita. You are, there's a growth there that's deep, profound, and having language for it is key. The next is satya, truth. And the Buddha emphasized truth so deeply. He said, send me a person who is sincere and straightforward. I will instruct them. I will teach them the Dhamma. This is the prerequisite, is honesty with oneself and others, because it allows self-reflection. It's the mirror which allows us to see what defilements manifest and how we can become more pure. The last thing you want to do is start to lie to yourself, because then you lose that ability to refine and self-reflect. So taking honesty as a key quality, and to know how difficult that is. It's really hard to be honest. There's a story of one practitioner who, as soon as he entered his career, he said, going into this job, one of my priorities is I will not lie. And he lost some business from that determination in the beginning. But after a few years, people began to know this person is honest, they don't lie, and his business did just fine. But that to hold honesty in the workplace where there's so much pressure, or the family, it requires a very strong determination and devotion to these teachings and trust in the Buddha, and it requires a skill. The Buddha talked about wholesomeness is kusala, skillfulness, and you have to learn how to be skilled with being honest. You don't always have to say everything on your mind or everything you know, but can you prepare for the difficult question might be coming? Is there a skillful way to answer? Is there something that's true but won't injure in a way that isn't useful? To note the small exaggerations in your life. If you take this as a primary paramita for the month, can you really notice how much you exaggerate? There was someone recently who talked about, she noticed her tendency to exaggerate was predicated on her not wanting to be boring. And she decided, so this year I'm going to try to be more boring. And, take that with as tongue in cheek. But there's something to it. Like, what's driving the tendency to exaggerate a little bit? And can we bring it back? And know the power of holding that clarity of honesty where people know this person does not lie. And you know of yourself, I will not lie. This is the fourth precept. It's the fourth precept. And it's a really key foundation. Related to that is adhitthana, determination. And this is where you bring that power of truth. And to say that the Buddha would often invoke truth as a power in and of itself. Some of you will know the moment where he came to the 5 ascetics who he'd moved away from in his path and said, when he was trying to convince them to listen to him, his new teaching, and they were dismissive, he said, have you ever known me to lie before? Have you ever known me to say this? And that declaration of truth was enough to make them say, no, actually, you've always been honest, so we'll listen. And that was the doorway that let the first 5 arahants, the first 5 enlightened beings beyond the Buddha, become enlightened. The declaration of truth. Adhitthana is where we bring that clarity of truth to bear on the world and direct our own path based on it. It means determination. And it's when you make the determination. For some people, a gentle intention is what feels right. But for others, really making a clear determination. In the simile of the quail, the Buddha talks about these elements of our lives, these defilements, which hold us like a rotting creeper would hold a quail. Where if one is willing to relinquish even those fetters, because of the instruction, because of devotion to the teacher and the teaching and the path, then one snaps those fetters like a bull elephant would snap a leather strap. And to just notice at the beginning of this new year, it's the year of the fire horse, which is a time of chaos and growth. Every 60 years we get one of these. And it's after the year of the snake, which is a year of shedding the skin. And to notice, what are the rotting creepers? Like, what are the things that I just know I should give up? I've been through this before. It's time. And can you just make the determination like, okay, I'm done drinking for these 3 months, for this year, for good. I won't lie. I'll give up, I'll pull back from this relationship. I'll make this a priority. I'll start to meditate. Any of these things, this is the moment to make those determinations. And in Thailand, the word adhitthana is used not just for determination, but also to invoke the power of a spiritual icon. So Kruba Ajahns will say, the great teachers will say, I'll adhitthana the barmi of the Buddha. And it means they're opening up a doorway in the heart to that resonance. And when you orient your life based on these adhitthana, when you create a structure for a Buddhist life, it's like tuning a Stradivarius, where you're tuning each string perfectly, but then the resonance invokes a deeper note. So this is the tuning of our life carefully using adhitthana. And use it skillfully, give stuff a 3-month trial period, or maybe even a week before you determine for the whole year. But it can be a powerful tool, and it's one that's not spoken about quite enough, I think. And we're running a little on time. But the last 2 are metta, loving kindness, and upekkha. And most of you know metta, the sense of friendliness, benevolence, and the fact that this orientation towards the world is both nourishing and galvanizing. The Buddha said one who practices loving kindness is dear to human and non-human beings, and they die unconfused. And the sense that if you invoke this loving kindness, this is what Bhante Sumita said, before you enter any room, before you pick up a call, may the people in there be happy, healthy, well, that you'll just feel safe when you walk into that room. And when you feel the impulse to go out and connect and scramble for some sort of connection and acknowledgement, instead, can you root into that sense of loving kindness in the heart and trust the upwelling of love to radiate out and see what effect that has? Bhante Sumita said, after you start practicing metta, you can start trying to tame animals from far away. See how it works. So see how it works. Or, your coworker. Whatever it is, see what effect radiating loving kindness has. And of course, upekkha, one of the crown jewels of Buddhism, equanimity, equipoise. As Joseph Goldstein says, looking at the earthbound madness through the lens of Venus, who's the goddess of love. But upekkha is not a indifference. The etymology is a careful watching, and many of you heard me talk about this before, but I think equipoise is the perfect simile, or the perfect word for it, because when a dancer is poised, it's because they're waiting for the next motion of music. They're waiting for one of the other three Brahma Viharas to become available, where there's an opening for love, or karuna, compassion, or mudita, rejoicing. But in that moment, just holding still at one center, and noticing that this, as a paramita to perfect, is in and of itself very meaningful and maybe very relevant for people, it almost always is, with their life, with politics, with family, and more. Can you keep the heart centered? Warm heart, cool head. So, coming to this new year, wish you all the best for cultivating these paramitas. Like Ajahn Kovilu said, we get 10. It gives you all 12 months plus 2 extra. And good luck.
Handamayam Dhammakataya Sadukaram Dadamase.
Sadhu, 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 anumodami. So we want to open up for questions, and people can feel free to comment or ask about the talk or anything on their minds, but we realize we spoke about something very important last week about the land and the possible movement of Clear Mountain eventually to land. And we want to just invite people, if they have questions about land and the process going forward, this is also a time you can ask about those. And before that, Anagarika, Virginia, do you have anything to comment on the paramitas? Just to put you on the spot a little bit.
I think they're so practical and so doable because, yeah, there's such a range that we've already experienced in life of doing them really well and doing them okay and not doing them well at all, and so maybe we already feel familiar with them to a certain extent, and so yeah, maybe a little more reachable than some of the other things we experience around Dhamma. I don't know. So yeah, really helpful for me. Thank you for the talk, both of you.
So if anybody has questions, you can raise your hand, and also on Zoom. Yeah, Jen, please.
Why are the parami delineated as spiritual priorities from the Brahma Viharas?
I don't know. One thing to note is the Buddha divided up the pie in many different ways. There's an interesting quote. Someone says, Abhidhamma is the Buddha creating is the periodic table, but the Buddha was teaching us how to bake an apple pie, you know. But he divides up the wholesome chitta, the wholesome heart in different ways on different moments. And so there's moments where talking about the 4 Brahma Viharas is really the useful metric. You know, that's what you're focused on, and that resonance is salient. But there's other times where, like, you're just dealing with a really difficult boss, and Metta's not doing it, Karuna's not doing it. Upekkha sounds great, but I don't even know what that means. But patience, I can touch patience. So for me, what the paramitas are, they're a really grounded, practical, important list. We had one member of the community who was going to ordain, and then he had family duties, which meant he couldn't. But instead of kind of giving up hope, you know, of practicing, he said, you know, what I did was that I determined to live my life here as beautifully as I could, and I took the 3 first paramitas almost as a mantra. How much can I give? How ethically can I live? How much can I give up? You know, renunciation. And so for me, they're just really accessible and important to have language for. But that word metta, like the flavors of metta are all 4 Brahma Viharas, so it's hidden in there. But the Buddhist teaching is a bunch of fractals. You know, they expand out into all the others to some extent. And I think someone's locked out of the gym, so maybe we could let them into. Jen, how does that land? And any other thoughts?
I just had a question because I'm kind of hard of hearing. The field trips, I know you're taking one today to the land, and then did you say every third Saturday or every first?
I think we said every first and third. And so we might update that, but I think that'll be our plan for the next, up through March 22nd.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Greg.
Can you explain why the parami are always in this order when they're explained? Aren't they always in this order, yes?
Yeah, they are usually in this order. Usually it is an interesting ordering. Usually in different lists, wisdom is the last. But also equanimity is also the last. Equanimity is the last in the list of 7 bojjhangas, the last in the 4 brahmaviharas. Wisdom's the last in the 5 powers, the 5 faculties, sila, samadhi, panya. But yeah, the Buddha didn't, like the earliest strata of text, you don't find this list. You find it in kind of paracanonical texts which emerged some centuries after the time of the Buddha. But yeah, this is the traditional list. And there's some great chants. If you just look up parami or paramita chanting, there's some really beautiful chants that go through this list in this order. And yeah, boom, 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 boom. Yeah.
I might also just add I think part of it, a lot of the lists, when Longpo Pasno was translating in Europe for Longpo Panya, he'd think he got all the things correctly, but Longpo Panya would say, you didn't get the order right. The order is important. And it's true, like often there are these hidden messages in the ordering. And for example, with the 7 enlightenment factors, you have, sati, mindfulness, Dhamma Vichaya, investigation of Dhammas, energy, joy, and then you have passaddhi, tranquility of body, ease, happiness. And there's this progression where it's the active qualities leading to the effect, the afterglow, samadhi, tranquility. And there's a similar progression here, like Ajahn Kovilo said, the first 5 are very accessible, things you can do, you can give. It's so simple. You can hold good morality. And then there is a progression to like those more subtle qualities at the end, like equanimity and metta. These are, in some sense, you put forth the effort, and then the Buddha's giving you a way to understand what you're tasting as the afterglow or resonance, and like making much of that and emphasizing that as well. So I think that's part of the progression. Is I find the first are very accessible and things you can do, and the latter are more qualities. At least that's how I've thought about it sometimes, but I'm not sure either. So.
Has anybody memorized the list yet? Anybody? All right, Doug. I would throw this at you. These are made out of wood, people. They're wood. It's not just cardboard. So if anybody else memorizes it, you can be the next wooden heart person. We're going to give this to you. Actually, you already got one, Doug. But yeah. If anyone memorizes the list, you get a wooden heart.
Like a monk ninja style.
So my question has to do with something that happened to Ajahn Kovilo earlier this year. I'm right here, and you could stop me if it's not a good question. But when you described that attack on you, like some of these things that you're now talking about, it seems like you were immediately drawing upon. And I've heard that some people say that Buddhism is really close to psychology, like the best type of psychology. And so my question for you, if you feel comfortable answering it, is did you think, that's the type of event that many of us would take decades to digest? And do you feel like that you took care of a lot of it that night?
Yeah, thank you. I was just March 28th, 2025. I was kind of punched in the stomach and put in a headlock and thrown on the ground and kind of got beat up. Just got beat up downtown Seattle. And it was in the end of our winter retreat. So I'd been meditating for basically 2 months straight and was able to go back after getting beat up and just do another couple weeks of meditation, and yeah, when it came up, I was just so primed. The heart was just so juicy with, I wasn't specifically practicing with the paramis, but certainly loving kindness is a daily practice, and all of these, they just are the bread and butter of a monastic life, of hopefully any kind of Buddhist or spiritual life, and you just have so many mirrors around you in a monastery or a spiritual community that are just reminding you of these things, the chants we do every single day, the meditations we do. So I really definitely feel like I was receiving the fruit of that, because I didn't plan for it to happen, and I didn't know what was going to happen. But yeah, it didn't, I don't, it does seem like it hasn't left scars, and certainly didn't leave physical scars. So yeah, definitely lists like this and other Buddhist lists really came quite quickly, but especially metta. So yeah.
Thank you.
Please, Matt.
How about the land? Okay. What I've heard from a good number of people, I just want to represent that here, is how is that going to affect us? What's going to change? Will this, how long will we continue to be here? What's the plan for the future? Will you let us inside over there? Or, I don't know, so just kind of, a number of people have asked those questions to me, and I said, I have no idea.
Yeah, that was the question I was hoping would come up. Thank you, Matt. Who's kind of had that cross their mind at some point ever? Yeah. So I know we addressed this in the previous descriptions of the land, but this will most likely be the largest forested forest monastery near a large metropolitan area in at least North America. And part of the reason it's taken so long was because we wanted it to be within 30 to 50 minutes of here. This is our landmark. And in the end, the North Bend property is about 40 minutes away, which we were pretty delighted about, and that was hard to find. But that quality was sacred because what I've seen with other monasteries is if it's an hour or two out, people can get there once a month, or if they're retired, they can get there if they're really devoted, or they'll say they'll get there twice a month or once a week, and it tends up being once every 3 months. And it's just, people have busy lives, and it's hard to make time. So we really wanted this to be accessible to people as much as we could. So that was a key priority. And our hope is that if this due diligence process goes through, if the land checks out, if the funds come in where we can purchase it by March 22nd, we have one building on it, but we're not sure what it looks like inside, and odds are it can't stand for long. It's a little hut. But what we'd probably have to start doing is laying the groundwork there, getting kind of facilities in, septic and more. Get 2 little kutis or trailers out there where we could start to live. And then maybe if everything went perfectly, maybe we'd have by summer an outdoor tent where we could have some meetings, maybe on Sundays or something. Or maybe we'd be meeting in here on Saturdays and out there on Sundays or something. Regardless of what happened during the summer, I think by autumn we'd have to be back here. It's very unlikely we're going to have a hall this big in 8 months or whatever. So odds are, like, basically we have an image of a multi-purpose hall in our minds as phase 1, but the large temple, which we're thinking will have capacity of 300 or 400 people, 200, 300, something like that, would be in phase 2. And so that's a few years out. So the hope is for these large gatherings, we'll still be meeting here for a while if they'll let us, although there may be 2 months in the summer where we see if we can actually manage something up in North Bend. And to acknowledge that, yeah, that will cause shifts, and there's melancholy to that. Some people do not have the same ability to drive there, even though it's only 40 minutes away. Some people don't have cars. What we feel we really want to do, and we've been trying to lay the framework for this, was by the creation of the WhatsApp groups and the Discord and other things. We really want to create forums where people can connect for carpooling and such. I mean, there is bus service out to North Bend, but it's a longer haul. So we want to facilitate that. We want to also have a group where people can sort of figure out with each other if they want to move near the monastery. How can that happen? I mean, it's expensive to live in Seattle. It's expensive to live in North Bend. But we think if we congregate people, connect them, that's been our ethos from the beginning, is get people talking and bring in some Dharma and some divinity into the mix and see what happens. And my feeling is that if people really have that in their hearts, that there's some things that can happen, you know, co-housing or plots divided or mini houses, who knows if people have trouble. But so we want to really create forums where people can get carpools out there, where they can figure out ways where they might be able to live nearby. But the vision is that really every day at, 6, 7 a.m., the monastics go for alms. We have one monastic at the monastery receiving people, having question and answer with folks. 9 a.m., we have a shared meal. Anyone who wants to can come and offer. People can continue to share the meal and talk. We'll have a library, a meditation hall where they can just continue to sit through the day, hopefully. A garden, trails, places where people can work. We'll hopefully have a kids' room where people can bring children. We'll have, hopefully a children's kind of like camp day once or twice a summer. It'd be all these kind of little things that could be really fun. During the middle part of the day, our hope is that we'd have a lay person who could kind of hold the space. The monastics won't be there all day. But that meditation hall would just be open for people, hopefully. If it turns out to be too much, maybe we will have to have certain closed hours during the day. We'll see. But then in the afternoon, also have a tea time where people can come, have evening chanting, and have that more or less every single day. Even if sometimes the monastics are all running back to their kutis and it's a lay person leading the chanting, we want it to be a bit of a refuge, not a bit of a refuge, really a refuge. And we will have to, we have to make sure it's a place where the monastics can live. If we're getting 100 people staying there all day and it's just a mess, like we might have to close those gates at certain hours. But our hope is we can have an open space where people can come and find peace. And if you have a day off, you can come up. If you want to come garden, you can come up. Right now, it's an interesting situation where we love being together, but we're a bunch of introverted, not me, a lot of introverted Buddhists who their one chance to come together is like 90 other people in a gym for an hour and a half. And it's wonderful that it works, but this will provide real opportunity for people like maybe you just feel like and coming and working in the garden for a few hours. Maybe you just want to come and sit in silence. The main hall will be noble silence. It'll be hybrid as well. Hopefully on the weekends, we'll have bigger events in the mornings, Saturday or Sunday. Hopefully we'll have all-day non-residential retreats, maybe for a week. Ajahn Kava will be there sitting 10 hours a day in the hall. People can come sit with him, Juanita, others. And then holy days, we'll have those too. So yeah, basically it won't be a sharp shift right away. We'll still be meeting here, acknowledging, that there will be a time where we probably look back at the time in the Triple Gym with fondness and this will be the beginning of an end of an era. And it will cause shifts, and we hope people can still get there. That is why we are aiming to be 40 minutes away, is so that people can get there. And then once it's fully formed, we're hoping that the infrastructure is such that it really is a temple where people can just come and sit, where you can be in the library. We'll have a columbarium where people can bring the ashes of their dead and keep them and remember them, and a lot more. Anything to add, Ajahn? Sorry, I think you said everything. Okay. The one thing that's worth clarifying here is we don't think we'll have people staying overnight. The price, Abhayagiri and other monasteries that are far from the city, the way that they can get food on time and have things taken care of is by having people stay over. And that's sustainable for them because on a big day, a Saturday, they might have 7 or 8 people come. On a Saturday, we might have 150 people come. Instead of having people stay overnight, we're hoping people can get there. Hopefully we'll have community members living nearby who are willing to open up, a little hut in their backyard for people who want to stay nearby, create a hospitality network. But our proximity to the city means first that we don't have to have people stay at the monastery all the time. And it also means we really can't. If you're at a monastery where you're orienting people about staying overnight and taking care of them, it's a huge duty. And if we're already navigating receiving about 100 guests on a weekend or 40 on a weekday morning, that's all the monastics can take. Like at the end of the day, like we need the ability to kind of practice. That's why we're monks. So that is one caveat, is like we'd have non-residential retreats where we open at 6 a.m. As soon as you can get there, you can be there sitting, and the doors might close around 9 p.m. or something. But then you might have to either find a friend to live nearby, or stay nearby that evening, or camp nearby. There's a campsite nearby, or drive back home and drive the 40 minutes the next day. And we think that's doable. Uposa today. Staying overnight, or? So when he was referencing the full and new moon days, and sometimes half moon days in Thailand, people will stay sitting all night. If Juanita's willing to lead an all-night sit, we might be willing to. We'll see. We will have special days. We'll have the full moon days and new moon days, I think, memorialized somehow. And we'll probably have late nights, and we might have some all-night sits. I'm not sure yet. Dad, and then Dominique, or Dominique, then Dad. Dad, then Dominique, or, okay, the other way.
So I know that there's a little gap with the financing at this point. How is that looking, and what do you need from us?
Thank you. So us monastics, we are really careful about articulating this. Like, we don't do any events or messaging that are explicitly fundraisers, ever. At the same time, we feel people care enough about this dream that we did want to make, as you're asking, the situation clear and the practicalities. Right now, I believe 4.3 million has come in pledged and given funds. The total cost of 90 acres and associated costs with due diligence is around 4.9. So our gap is around 600,000. And we'd have to raise that in about 3 months. So it's, raise is the wrong word, but we're hoping it can come in, and it rests a bit on that faith, and much of our kind of path has since there. So that's the hope. If we get to the end of that period and it hasn't come in, then we might have our board members begin. There might be other messaging, such as an interest-free loan from a community member to get us to closing, but we'd really rather avoid being in debt. Really, really rather avoid it. So does that answer the question a bit? Okay. I think if people wanted to connect around that, yes, you could make we'd want you to connect you to one of our board members to make sure that the messaging, if it was in any sort of official Clear Mountain or even unofficial Clear Mountain capacity, was in line with our ethos, which is somewhat refined. But yeah, just talk to me. But if it's more just gathering people and trying, inspiring one another along the lines of what we've spoken about, or talking to others about what you find inspiring about the vision, then that's completely okay to do. Thank you for asking. Yeah. Dad.
So the anchor of all this has to center in a certain way, I'm assuming, center in a certain way around the monastics being able to continue your practice with the ardency and focus you need to. So one of my concerns has always been, you're land developers now. So how, is there a way as a community that we can support you not being overwhelmed by this so that it impacts your practice? Is that an appropriate question?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, we're monks and supposed to be training in contentment, and once the land's there, we can stay in the shackiest shack, that you can find. We can stay in trailers, and the big cost, certainly at the outset, is the land. And once that's there, then we'll host what we can out there. We do love group meditation. We'll continue doing that daily, and also day-long retreats and longer, our winter retreat. That's a big part of our monastic life, and will continue to be. That's 3 months, and we'll open as much of that as we can to other people coming in to participate. And of course, no cost at all for that. And yeah, once we're on the land, we'll just be there doing our monk thing, just continuing to live simple lives. And then when funds come in for the next phase of building, then that'll be great. And people can come and you won't have to be, hanging out in a shack, but you can like sit in a meditation hall or something more sustainable. But I think once we're there, this is the biggest, cost at the outset. So, anything to add?
Just in terms of how you can support us as like keeping that practice, like Ajahn Kovo said, just having faith in this process. When you hear about a volunteer opportunity that would be helpful, tap into it, and practice well and dedicate the goodness of your practice to this aspiration. It's a beautiful one, and like Ajahn Kovo said, we're happy in the shackiest of shacks. We have really good shacks right now, actually, in David Allison's backyard, but this vision is largely for the future monastics who would live there and for this community. So just hold that aspiration in your heart, and however much this community has affected you, just imagine that rippling out over generations, and that is the real hope. So just recollect that goodness, and if you want to ask for a little bit of, just invoke, the goodness that's out there for the sake of this aspiration, that will be worth a lot.
Hi, I just thought I'm on the board, and there is, if you go on the Friends of Clear Mountain website, there's a page, We've Got Land, and it's something you could share with friends across the world. And I'm on the team that thanks people for donations. A bunch have been flooding in, but more to come. But there's people who are just overjoyed, like literally all over the world, about this happening. It's extraordinary to have phone conversations with people giving. So I just look at this as an opportunity for people to give. There's no ask, it's just an opportunity for people to give. And if you want to share that website with friends all over the world, go for it. But just don't do it as an ask, but this is a beautiful thing to be able to help this wonderful thing happen for the benefit of all beings. So kind of have that attitude, and there's a mechanism that works really well. Go for it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Steve. And just one tiny thing. I mean, one of the best things you can do is just remember the 10 parami, okay? Just remember the 10 parami. It's up on the board. It's not that hard.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that this is it is about change and impermanence, and many of us here spent years with Sims, and we used to practice here in this gym, and before that in Blodell Hall. And there was a time when we had to move from both places, and subsequently, our teacher retired, and but many of us are still here, and have joined this group, or have still just at Sims, and there's something really valuable about that, and I just hope everyone won't lose sight of that, and also just appreciate that it is the monastics and their practice that has brought us here. So.
Peter's work on due diligence has always also brought us here. He's our owner's rep for this period along with Alex, and it's just been so helpful. I don't think we got a chance to do 3 sadhus for Peter's work, but trust me, he deserves them. 3 sadhus. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I don't think so. I'm sorry, actually, we have to finish questions. I'm sorry, we're already over time. Apologies. Thank you, everyone. And I know that 600,000 can seem like a big number. We did just have a pledge of 100,000 come in this morning. This is possible. This is possible. People have faith. And we've had so many gifts of $10 and $5 and $25. Everything adds to this momentum in a beautiful way. And just have faith. Like my dad says, this is impossible and inevitable at the same time.
And it isn't just one generation. We aspire to be monks for our whole life, but then there'll be new little baby monks who come up and replace us. Yeah, not babies. You got to be at least 20 to ordain, but little 20-year-old monks who replace us. And yeah, it'll keep going for hopefully centuries, but definitely generations and generations and generations.
This is where our monk-in-law simile stops. Thank you all. We will have more time for questions, just other Saturdays. Any Wednesday, we'll stay on after the usual 7:45 closing, and just be on a little longer if people want to join those Wednesday Zooms and ask more questions as well. But this is an ongoing process, and we just invite the community to be a part of it. Ask questions. If you have something niggling in your heart, talk to us. Talk to Steve if you want some instruction or guidance about helping in other ways. Steve, can you raise your hand one more time? There he is. And because we're ending late, maybe a few things. Let's move the schedule. We thought a 12:15 departure would work. Let's move it back to the 12:30 we were thinking of. We also thought an 11:15 a.m. departure for the Upasaka discussion group, but we want to give people a chance to get some food, so make that 11:30. Is that okay? So 11:30 people